So, you've had your relative and resident customer feedback survey in, and it's not looking too good. Particularly the food service has taken a little bit of a hammer in terms of the feedback. So some of the examples that were given are things like food arriving late, food arriving cold, food preferences not being accounted for properly, people not having the correct level of support at meal times. So a number of issues there around specifically the food service. So how would that make you feel? How does that make you feel as a manager?
Really disappointed because I feel that all of that blame basically lies on me, which is what most managers would think. But then you have to be a bit more pragmatic and realistic and think, well, actually, you can't take the blame for everything that may go wrong in a care home. Ultimately, you're accountable for the majority of things, but people have to take ownership and take responsibility. So my first sort of action on receiving that, once I'd picked myself up from being so dejected, I would be looking, okay, so what went wrong? And I would sort of start asking myself what could have gone wrong, and then I would speak to not just the catering team, because it might not have been a catering team issue. It might have involved the whole team. Something might have happened in the home that caused everything to be delayed, or that processes didn't work as smoothly as possible. So it's doing a bit of an investigation before you start jumping to conclusions, really.
And you talked about accountability there, and as the whole manager, you're accountable for a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, it must feel like there's lots of plates kind of spinning at the same time. But whilst you're accountable for everything, it's impossible, I would imagine, to control everything.
Oh, you can't. I can't control absolutely everything. I mean, I'm accountable for making sure that the policies, processes, procedures are all followed and adhered to at all times by the team, because you wouldn't deviate from them. I'm accountable for making sure that the documentation being produced is of a standard that's acceptable, and that all checks are being carried out as they should be on equipment, etc. That I can prove that I've got oversight of the whole home. So I'm doing my audits, I'm doing my catering audit, I'm doing my mealtime observations, which would have been done and which I had done at that point. And it was a fantastic meal service, but that is a snapshot of one day. What happens one day may not be replicated the next day, unfortunately. So you have to think, well, what has gone wrong? What may have gone wrong? Have there been any other extenuating circumstances? Did an emergency happen at the time? So it's getting to the bottom of it before you start jumping to conclusions. And I start, making allegations and accusations to the chef, and really, really annoying him. I need to make sure I've got all the facts and all my ducks in a row before I start acting on anything.
Don't annoy chefs.
Absolutely
Rule
not.
number one, especially when they've got something sharp in their hands.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, it's that. For me, I guess it's how do you move from that almost instinctive approach, like blame approach, to a more kind of ownership thinking? How do you make that shift from blame to ownership? How do you get everybody bought into being collectively accountable as a team?
Yeah, I mean, having worked in and taken over homes where there was very much a blame culture, if something happened, it wasn't me, it was her, or it wasn't us, it was the kitchen, or it was housekeeping. We are one team. We're all there for one purpose. So it's not about apportioning blame to any one person or one department. It's about asking them what happened. Talk me through that day, because it was all on one day apparently, because the relatives were quite specific about the date. So it's talk me through what happened that day, what went so badly wrong. And then it's not me sort of pointing the finger at blame and saying it's your fault. It's saying, right, okay, let's see what happened. Take some ownership, take responsibility, and let's see how we can prevent that happening again.
And I think it's interesting. I think quite often being a manager can be quite a lonely role. It feels like everything is on you, the accountability is on you, but it's actually quite a lonely role. But I think even more so in social care management roles. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think since I started in management, I remember one of my senior managers saying to me, it's a very, very lonely role. And being new to care home management, I thought, how can it be? You've got all these people in the home. You've got people at head office. You've got your visitors, your relatives. But it is one of the loneliest jobs in the world, because you're constantly under pressure from within, from in the home, from relatives, commissioners, regulators, the powers that be in the head office. It can be very, very lonely, and sometimes you do feel you're isolated and you've no one to turn to, and you need to very, very quickly establish a peer that you can talk to, or a line manager that you've got a good relationship with that you can speak to, and you can basically offload, or you can share, and you can say, this is what's happened, this is what I'm going to do. Do you think that's the right approach? And over time that experience comes, and you know yourself, right, okay, I'm not just going to jump in with both feet and cause mayhem. I'm going to take a step back and think, right, okay, calm. What could have happened? What might have happened? And we'll get the facts, and then we'll act on it. We'll put a plan in place to avoid that happening again.
Sure. And have there been any times when it's almost been a little bit too overwhelming and you've had to kind of reach out to the people and get that support around you? Is that something you've done?
Yeah, it's happened a few times, and it's worked in two completely different ways. The first time it happened, I was fairly new to management, and contacted my line manager at the time and said, this has happened, this is what I was planning to do, and I've tried to start to do it, but, you know, getting a lot of resistance from the team. I don't think this is going to work. Can you give me some ideas? You'll have come across this before, obviously. You've been in the game longer than I have. Can you tell me what you think might work? And he was great. He was really, really useful and helped a lot. And he actually came out to the home and we worked together on it with the team, and everything was really good. On the other hand, when something happened in the home, which I wasn't actually physically managing, but it was one of my homes. I had a patch of homes. I got in touch with my then line manager and said, this is what's happened in the home. I'm going to support the manager doing X, Y, and Z and see how she gets on. And this line manager said, no, I need to take control of this. And she then attempted to micromanage me and asked me to micromanage the manager, which I'm not comfortable with, and I know that manager would not have responded well had I started to take control and micromanage her, which doesn't work with me either. So that was a time where it kind of went wrong.
And I think it's a really interesting thing, that kind of micromanage thing, because like we said earlier on, it's that you're accountable for everything, but you can't control. It's impossible to control everything. You just can't. There's things there that happen in 24 hours a day. But do you think sometimes the tendency is for managers to slip into that micromanagement kind of approach?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen and I've heard managers say, well, I know it's going to get done properly if I do it, so I'll just go and do it, and they'll watch me and I'll tell them how to do it, and they won't do it any differently. You know, they're not giving people autonomy and ownership, and some of the team are seniors. They've got a lot of experience. They should be allowed to take the lead on things, but the managers, probably through fear.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's their name over the door. They don't want to be hauled in front of CQC or their directors to say what went wrong in that home, what did you do, what did you not do.
And I can kind of understand that. I kind of understand, like I said, it's their name above the door, and ultimately it is all on them. But yeah, I can understand why that I must micromanage everything is going to be kind of the way forward. But yeah, clearly it's not. It's going to make the problem even worse, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and I think it gets a lot of people's backs up. They think, oh, she's just telling me exactly what I need to do. Yeah. But I know that won't work in this situation. I know that resident won't respond well to that, or I know that care team member won't respond well to that. So it's getting that fine balance and knowing how to work.
Okay, and thinking about how do we create that environment or culture of ownership thinking rather than blame thinking. Tell me specifically, what would I need to do then as a new home manager to create that?
I think you have to say that in a care setting, you'll never, ever get perfection. There is no such thing.
No.
You'll never fully eliminate risk. What you can do is mitigate it and manage it. There will always be an element of risk, and you have to learn to live with that and keep it under control. And it's about that's the thing you can control.
Yeah.
And it's realising what is outside of your control and what you can influence. And if you can find that balance, and well, oh my goodness, that happened, or we had a leak last night because there was a torrential thunderstorm. You can't control that, or if the kitchen were half an hour late bringing the meal down today because the chef was on a phone call to his wife and forgot what time it was. That's something you can control and you can manage. You can't control the weather, so I mean that's two extremes. But it's realising and making yourself and your team aware of, actually you couldn't have done any better there. You couldn't have controlled what happened there, or come on now, that shouldn't be happening here.
Sure.
Let's see what we can do to stop it happening again.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So once again, some of the key takeaways from me are around make sure we have ownership thinking rather than blame thinking. Get everybody bought into understanding why we should be collectively responsible, albeit you have ultimate accountability, but make sure people are responsible for doing their bit within the home, making sure that they're doing a good job. And that control the controllables that I know you've talked about before, but it resonates really well, doesn't it? Yeah, some of the things that happen you just cannot control. You're going to have to accept that it's outside of your gift to be able to deal with. Some of them you can, some of them you can't.
Absolutely. And
it's never going to be perfect, you said.
No, and it's a quiet fear that bubbles underneath the life of a home manager on a daily basis.
I'm sure.
But it keeps you on your toes.
I'm sure it does, yeah. Knowing that accountability and that risk and that kind of fear, if you like, to use your word, is kind of still in the background there. But yeah, as long as it's in a healthy way and you can use that as a motivator to make sure that we have got people doing a good job. And yeah.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, once again, really helpful. Thank you for sharing your insights.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.